Oh, child, and we back. Because what? We legally everywhere looking into everything. Okay, and today we're going to focus on what? We're going to focus on the ICE program, right? We're going to focus on the way that Project 25 indexes Project 25. Now, what's very interesting about today is today, which is March 28th, 2026, there was a no king peaceful, listen to me, peaceful protest, okay? And there were about, let me get the correct number, right? There were about 3,200 events that happened in the United States, spanning over 50 states. Let me make sure I get the number right. 3,200 events that were held today over various states throughout the United States. Now, what I find very interesting, once again, is how a lot of things were indexed. But what we're going to do in this particular video is I'm going to read to you how Project 25 has it indexed. What I will do for fun, right, is I will also show you something very interesting that I came across, right? I am from the great state of Michigan, right? And I so happen to have a screenshot of one of the locations for which the peaceful protest was held. That city is Taylor, Michigan. What I found very interesting is I decided to go look up to see if what states, just say what cities, what agencies and companies in Michigan had a MOA, which is a memorandum of what agreement, which means they already have an agreement, right? We shook on it, it's a done deal. Taylor Police Department was actually one of those facilities that has an agreement. Taylor's the same place they were holding this No Kings peaceful protest, right? People were sitting in opposition of Trump. In the same exact place where they have an agreement to potentially detain people, right? Relevant to ICE, right? Specifically relevant to ICE. It's just very interesting with posture, right? Very interesting posture. So I'm going to walk you through that particular MOA throughout the course of reading Project 25, just so you can get those receipts at the same time. Because what I told you, we getting into these receipts. So don't let me hold you any further. We'll talk about this some more on my page, but just go ahead and listen to how it's indexed, and also look at how many actual memorandums of agreement they actually have, right? Because they're going to say one number, and then we're going to look at the form and see if there's actually more. And then just look at what the form looks like. I'll also tell you that it looks like that website had a little bit of a facelift since the last time I showed you some information, but don't you worry about that. We're going to get into them receipts another time. Right now, I want you to see how Project 25 is indexed, and I want you to see these receipts. Okay, I'm going to show you. Check it out. Should mandate and fund additional bed space for detainees, right? Because we've been talking, or better yet, they've been talking a lot about detention centers and places that have been purchased and for utilization, right? I have actually been, collecting receipts and talking about it since probably June of last year, when it first was kind of being presented, before it is presented as it has been presenting, present day, right? Project 25 alignment items. So a lot of receipts we have can be mapped, right? It said Congress should fund ICE for at least 20,000 ERO officers and 5,000 office of principal legal advisor, so attorneys, right? We can look through ICE's, or to look through the ICE section in detail at another time, but for the moment, going here. So we're gonna click this one just so we can get right to the section where this is popping up. Wait a minute, that's a new section. Don't want to miss 6. Under this new policy, so to advance the national interest of 3 core immigration agencies, the UC or the USCIS, ICE, and CPD should remerge and have immigration elements outside of DHS, or as ORR of HHS included. The fragmented immigration enforcement framework that developed in the wake of the Homeland Security Act has weakened each agency and should be remediated. Ooh, tongue twister. Not really, I just need to sip of water. So it should be remediated. Combining these critical agencies would strengthen their capacity or capabilities, ensuring cooperation and promote information sharing, agency responsibilities, and the delineation of authorities, such as inconsistent use of deferred action and issuance of NTAs by each agency, have long been a point of contention that would address much more easily if they were recombined into a single entity. Alternatively, new policies for the agency as it currently exists should focus on matters that can be addressed through administrative action, right? Through administrative action, which sounds like they're asking for an executive action. The workforce should be realigned and, as necessary, retrained on base eligibility and fraud detection rather than speed and process. Okay, because we heard, if you watched the State of the Union last night, they talked about some fraud detection and certain things, right? Posture, right? But we're going to stick directly with this, right? We see that there are Project 25 alignments that are happening. And when I re-chop this up later, I'll add the receipts right behind so you can see visually what I'm talking about if you're not familiar with some of the current events that I'm referencing. This talks about training should return to federal law enforcement training centers. That would underscore the enforcement role of the USCIS as a vetting agency and rebranding accordingly. Now to Venezuela, management directives and policies should realign to ensure that the workforce, while adaptable and able to handle the bulk of the USCIS mission, is not allowed to be pulled off mission work to focus on unlawful programs. The DACA, mass parole of Afghans, Ukrainians, Venezuelans, etc., which divert resources away from nuclear families and employment programs. The regulatory agenda should include the immediate submission of the notice of proposed rulemaking of the Trump administration public charge rule, including aspects that its original notice of proposed rulemaking, temporary work visa reform, employment authorization reform rules, asylum bar rule, and a third country transit rule. At a minimum, an enhanced regulatory agenda should include rules strengthening the integrity of the asylum system, parole reform, and the U visa reform that prioritizes relief for victims of heinous crimes and ensures that we protect the truest and most deserving victims of crime. Not all the policy changes require formal rulemaking. Do not require formal rulemaking. We see that suggests some posturing, right? We'll just stick with that piece. I'll put a tag and a pin on that. However, as internal guidance documents are generally exempt under Administrative Procedural Act. Not all policy changes require formal rulemaking. However, as internal guidance documents are generally exempt under the Administrative Procedure Act, APA. In this sub-regulatory space, USCIS policy memos and operational guidance should reduce the validity of the employment authorization document and end the COVID flexibilities, including the reliance on biometric reuse. USCIS should also enforce existing regulation by rejecting incomplete applications, petitions, ensuring both that they are completed before accepted for filing and the FDNS sign off on all approved applications and petitions before approval notices are sent to the alien or petitioner, right? Other efforts should be focused on adjudication standards returning to nearly 100% interview requirement for all appropriate cases. So they wanted the incoming administration should spearhead an immigration legislative agenda focused on system that rewards high-skilled aliens instead of the current system that favors extended family-based and luck of the draw immigration. To that end, the diversity visa lottery should be repealed. Chain migration should be ended while focusing on the nuclear family, and existing employment visa programs should be placed with a system to award visas only to the best and brightest. Okay. Internal efforts to limit employment authorization should be matched by congressional action to narrow statutory eligibility to work in the United States and migrate unfair employment and competition for U.S. citizens. We heard a lot of posturing about making sure that certain things were for U.S. citizens, right? That's something we have consistently heard in discussion by the executive. So kind of looking at this, right? We see that there's some alignment with some things, but we want to go directly to some receipts. So we have read text before and after, so I'm not just picking this one random thing for shock factor, right? We are nearing to the end that I'll pretty much be covering. And one of the, okay. So pivoting abroad, this is page 178. If you are reading this digitally, if you're using the static version and the community section, feel free to look at page 210. So pivoting abroad, personnel and management adjustments are crucial preludes to refocus the State Department's mission, which is to implement the president's foreign policy agenda, and in so doing so, ensuring that the interests of America. Ooh, the screen's moving. That's it. The next president reorient the U.S. government posture towards friends and adversaries alike. Must reorient the U.S. government's posture towards friends and adversaries alike, which will include much more honest assessments about who are friends and who are not. Huge Project 25 alignment here, right? Repositioning, so to reorient. All right, you made it to the end. What? I told you we was going to come with them receipts. The kids say, what? We ate. What? Because we was getting to these receipts. I know you saw that, right? Alignment. So, with that being said, if you like content like this, go ahead and like the video. That lets YouTube know that you like the content and you support it being sent out to other people so that we can make sure that this information is being accessible out in the community who it's designed for, right? If you're someone where you like, listen, I like to marinate. Listen, we do a lot of marinating on information here on this channel. That's not a problem. Stay along and stick with us. And once you're ready, go ahead, subscribe. Subscribe only when you're ready, right? If you're really excited about this content, go ahead, comment, like, subscribe, and even share it to people who you feel like would also benefit from it. Once again, that lets YouTube know that you like this content. We do a lot of breakdowns on this channel. So I'm really hoping that you like this content and that you're finding something that you like. But also note, there may be other content, other mini-series, courses and things that are on this channel that you have not yet had an opportunity to explore. Go ahead on the page, look into that. We have lots of things happening here on this site. This is Legally Everywhere, where we're what, child? We're looking into everything. This has been a very unique experience, and I will see you in the next video, because we want to do some more breakdowns. See you then. See you there next time.